So we are in Gospel of Mark, chapter 5. We are reading this wonderful story which shows us very strange actions of our Lord Jesus. Jesus, with his disciples, came to the country of the Gadarenes. There was really possessed man, and the satanic spirits asked Jesus to send them into the swines. Verse 11 says, Now there was there nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. And we stopped with a question. We got stopped with a question. Why would Jesus allow those spirits to do what they asked for? Any ideas? Especially if we know how things will proceed from here. Jesus would be rejected. If you don't have ideas, no problem. We can go on with the reading, and eventually the Lord will show us what's happening.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
I think at that moment they were at the mercy of Jesus, and Jesus actually showed mercy on them and gave them what they wanted.
That's a good idea. Very interesting idea. Okay. Let's see if we can get something else. But I hope all of us we understand that Jesus could do whatever he decided to do. He could just say no, go away, and they would, because they obey Jesus only because he is ultimately powerful. All right, let's move on with the reading. Verse 12.
So all the demons begged him, saying, Send us to the swine, that we may enter them.
Looks like everything is pretty clear here.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually even tell him that we can enter them. Okay, we may enter them. Okay, let's go on with verse 13.
And forthwith Jesus gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000 and were choked in the sea.
Now, I have a question.
Okay.
Now, the word that Brother David used, now in the New King James Dictionary, it says gave them permission. And I looked up the word permission, and there's a word, it says leave. And in leave, it means to turn to, transfer, commit, entrust, to permit, to allow, or to give leave. So I understand what the word permission. So he gave them permission to go into the swine, if you use the word permission, but those are those the same things as permission? To turn to transfer, to commit, to entrust, to allow, I guess to allow, to give
To allow.
leave.
Yeah, he
Okay.
could forbid, but he allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sister, I
Uh-huh.
have another suggestion, if I may. The swines are unclean. They are unclean beasts.
Yep.
And the demonic forces also are unclean. So they may have chosen to enter into that which is unclean because that was their pleasure to do so. To enter into the vessels, the unclean vessels, where they wanted to be because they themselves were unclean. So they chose the swine.
All right. But at the same time, we can suggest that if they asked for something else, they would not be allowed. They knew that Jesus could allow them to be in the unclean animals. You know what I mean?
Yes.
No humans, no sheep, of course, and maybe they were no. I mean, there were 2,000 swines there, so they were like 2,000 spirits. So they kind of assumed that it would be nice to enter each swine there. I mean, they did not really have much choice.
Yes. Yes.
Why would they ask for entering the swines in order to kill the swines? I would assume they wanted to stay in them, but apparently the swines were killed right away.
Because they get pleasure out of killing.
Okay, sounds interesting, but in the same time, they wanted to be in something. It seems to me that they wanted to be in something. They did not leave the man, for example. They would be in the man. Why would not they stay in the swines?
Because God let them kill the swines. God would not allow them to kill the man. They wanted to kill. They would have preferred the pleasure of killing and then going out into the out into the world again.
Mhm.
But I really think that they wanted the pleasure of killing, and God would not let them kill the man, but He allowed them to kill the swine.
Okay, I would agree. I would agree, because here in the story we do see the nature of those spirits. Their idea is to kill. But I think it's more here. I think they had a plan because they knew, the spirits knew, that the pigs belonged to people from this country, and they knew the people from this country. The
Mhm.
spirits knew that the people would be really upset with the laws. Here, the story gets even more intense, I believe,
Mhm. It
because
does.
Jesus kind of signs a permission for them to stop his actions. You see? Yes, Brother Chris, did you want to say something?
No, I was just agreeing with you because later in the story, um, when it comes out that what he did, they asked him to leave because the people of the country were upset with what he did. They asked him to leave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it looks like we can see the plan of the unclean spirits. Right now, it's pretty obvious. They say, "Oh, could you please send us to the swines, our kind Jesus?" And he does, and they obviously kill those pigs, this herd of pigs, and oops, now Jesus doesn't have a permission to go into this place. So the plan of the unclean spirits worked out. That's very strange. All right, let's go on with the reading. Verse 14.
So those who fed the swine fled, and they told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was that had happened.
Okay, what do we understand here?
The people, I guess the shepherds went back after what Jesus did, and he told the people in the city what Jesus did, and he was telling people in the city and in the towns what Jesus did.
Mhm. It looks like a pretty good crowd gets
Yes.
to the place, and the whole village, I mean villages even, know what had happened. So many people in this country know right now that some man who is called Jesus basically killed 2,000 pigs. I mean, not just 200, it's 2,000 pigs. Okay, it's a huge number. And some of the people lost their fortune because they would sell those pigs, you know.
But when they came to see the man that was that had the evil spirits, when they saw him healed, they didn't put two and two together and realize that he was healed, and they just assumed that they didn't put two and two. Oh, he's healed, and they put the pigs to die because. Do you
Yeah,
understand what I'm
yeah, I
trying?
understand. Yeah, I understand. But let's read. Let's read. Apparently, at the very beginning, they could not. And it's very possible that only Jesus and the possessed man were talking, and everybody else was in the distance because everybody was afraid of that possessed man. So maybe they
Okay.
did not even hear what the conversation was about.
Okay.
You see? But try to imagine the situation. So the people live fine. They have only one problem: the man, possessed man, who is basically maybe even killing and torturing those who unhappily happened to be nearby.
Mhm.
And then one day, basically, a man called Jesus comes there, and something happens pretty fast, and 2,000 pigs are gone. That's what the people know. That's what they see right now. Okay, let's go on with the reading. Verse 15.
And they come to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion, sitting and clothed, and in his right hand, I'm sorry, in his right mind, and they were afraid.
Oops. All right. So the next step of the story, what is it about?
It's about the change that they saw come over the man, and they obviously associated that with Jesus, and that scared them that they saw this man so completely changed,
Mm-hmm.
and they were astonished at probably the power of Christ.
Absolutely. Or maybe they were astonished at what's happening. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see what you say. At the power of Christ, at the power of Jesus. They would not call him Christ. Because now they connect the dots, Brother Chris.
Mhm.
They see that the man is completely right, in right mind, and the pigs are gone. So the dots are connected. Let's go on with reading.
Okay. And those who saw it told them how it happened to him, who had been demon possessed, and about the swine.
Mm-hmm. So they have the time to talk about what happened. And now everybody knows what actually happened. So Jesus is still there. It could take maybe 2-3 hours for everything, for the shepherds to run to the cities, to bring people out of the cities, to explain everything, to look at everything. Maybe even 4 hours. What do you think Jesus is doing right now? While everybody is running and trying to understand what's happening, what happened. What do you think Jesus is doing for 3 hours? But
He's
what
probably teaching
teaching? Who is he teaching?
the formerly possessed man and his
Yeah,
disciples.
yeah. And the disciples and the before like possessed men. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's talking to him. They're
Hmm.
talking. They should have some time to talk.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So meanwhile, people around are running around and count their losses. Um, okay, let's go on. Verse 17.
And they began to pray him to depart out of their coasts.
Ooh.
So they
Mhm.
besieged him. They asked him, please, they besieged him to leave
Yep.
because they were afraid. They did not understand what happened. I don't think they fully understood. That's why they were afraid and they wanted him to go.
Absolutely, I agree. Did Jesus know that they would do that?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. But why would he allow such a difficult situation to occur?
I think he did it for the sake of that poor man.
Okay,
I
that's
think
interesting. Mhm.
later on he asked, because the gentleman said, "Would you take me with you?" But Jesus said, "Stay and tell everyone what I did for you." And I think that's why he had the man become a preacher for him, to let them know what he did.
Let's read it. Let's read it. 18 and 19, Brother Chris.
Okay. And when he got into the boat, he who had been demon possessed begged him that he might be with him. However, Jesus did not permit him, but said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you and how he has compassion on you."
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So he
Mhm.
wanted him to explain to everyone who he was, because I don't know if that particular group of people even, it sounds like they didn't even know who Jesus was. So maybe Jesus wanted to tell them and show them who he was, because it sounded like they didn't even know who he was. Because in all the other towns, people would flock to him, but they didn't seem like they even understood who he was. So I think he was trying to begin to teach them. So that was the first person to try and teach that town.
Okay, I would agree with you. But at the same time, wouldn't it better if Jesus himself entered the villages and talked to the people? You see, that demon possessed man who was healed and freed, he did not know a lot either. All he knew was what happened 4 hours before.
Mhm.
So, what could he tell people around? It's just a very different scale here. Jesus could tell about the truth, could read with them the scriptures, could teach, and could be there with his own intonations, his perfection. Okay, and apparently it looks like Jesus would do much more than this
Well,
man.
Can I ask a question? There's this is a question. You and Brother Craig can go and speak to people and explain things to people. Where if I went to a supermarket and I bought the right food and only the right food, and people saw me lose weight and I always did the right things, wouldn't that also be showing people how God is, even though I didn't know as had as much experience as maybe you or Brother Craig?
That's an interesting idea.
yes, the man would have been a living example, and he was living evidence of what Jesus told him to do. The people were not ready to hear that directly from Christ, but they were ready to see the, the effects of
Mhm.
what God did for this man. So yes, I agree with Brother Chris. I was going to say that the man was a living example and the people needed to see the evidence of it.
What if I say that Jesus was not to enter the villages at all? It was not his plan at all. His plan was to send this man to be there.
Yes, we would agree. Yes.
You see? It was his plan, Brother Chris. It was his plan from the very beginning.
So you think he knew? He obviously he knew, but I never thought about it like that. That is, yes.
You see, he's
Okay.
wisely done things which Satan could not predict.
That's true.
Satan thought everybody would be upset, they would kick Jesus out, but Jesus actually wanted them to do such a thing.
Hmm.
Because if he entered the villages, he knew people, people were not ready to listen. And they were not ready to believe, and he would not be able to heal anyone, to do any miracle over there, because he can do miracles only when people believe him.
Mm.
But the whole area there was not ready to believe. So Jesus had a plan, and it is absolutely gorgeous plan. He did not even how to say that freed the possessed man. He allowed 2,000 pigs to be killed. He actually made 2 strikes on those villages. The first one was like, wow, he could heal. Absolutely, like, he deals with bad spirits so well. And the other one was financial, how to say it, strike, which is very heavy in people's minds also, because it's about their wealth, so they start thinking. When you don't have money, you start thinking, don't you? Do you?
Mhm.
You just start thinking, okay, and then you say, oh, this man, he did something, and I don't have my pigs anymore. But at the same time, he healed that man who is going around from town to town, from village to village, and tells about him. So people can start connecting the dots perfectly. They needed time. And Jesus knew they needed time. Satan did not know that. He thought he would be, he's victorious, but he cannot be victorious over Jesus at all. Jesus, and when we read further, we will see how Jesus would return to the same place and he would be accepted by people. You see, he did not lose at all. He actually won with those things. I'm absolutely fascinated with how God acts. Okay? Do we have the answer for the question why Jesus allowed those spirits to enter the pigs?
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful wisdom of God Himself. Brother Chris, are you on the same page with us?
Mhm.
Absolutely gorgeous. I love this story. When I started understanding it, I'm like, Jesus, you're absolutely gorgeous. He can allow bad things to happen in order for a village or to a town to start thinking. But at the same time, he never allows just bad things to happen. He made a miracle. He freed this possessed man. And this man was completely on Jesus' side. Can you imagine? He would come to those villagers and he would say, I don't know anything about the truth, but I know the truth. I know Jesus who came and was plentifully, how to say, plentiful, powerful against those demons. I don't know the truth yet, but I know the truth. I don't know how to say it in English.
You said it right.
So anytime when you try to overcome something in your life, remember, please remember that knowledge of the truth, just, intellectual knowledge of the truth, it is good. Yes, we need to learn from Jesus. We need to know more and more. That basically makes us happy, I would say. I don't know about you, but I'm becoming happy when I understand who Jesus is and what he wants and how he acts. But at the same time, this intellectual truth doesn't save. only the actions of Jesus himself in you, when you allow him to do that, they save. Only the knowledge, personal relationships with Jesus, and the desire to be with him no matter what saves. I have a question. Do you think Satan would try to attack that man while he was there, going around and telling about Jesus? Or he
No,
was completely freed from Satan's attacks? What do you think?
I don't think he was free from Satan's attacks. I think that his faith protected him, his faith in Jesus, because he believed that Christ saved him, Jesus saved him. I think it was his faith that protected him, but I think Satan probably was still, hanging around.
Absolutely. Satan, once he started understanding that he could not stop Jesus with Jesus's plans, he would start attacking that man. Of course. But do you remember how Apostle Paul says, take the shield of faith? This man believed in Jesus and was so much on Jesus's side that Satan could not do anything, absolutely anything. But attacks would be happening, and this man would feel those attacks, but he would not react. Why? Because he knew the actions of Jesus in his life. I honestly believe he was one of the most powerful witnesses for Jesus. Not because he knew everything from the Bible, but because he knew the one who actually gave us the Bible. That's what we need to look for when we are praying, when we are trying to do good, to know the one who gave us the Bible.